What's poppin', my Freeform Renegades? You are tuned into the Freeform Network. Thanks for joining us for another fun episode of Freeform Radio. I'm your host, Noel, with my co-host, as always, Daniel.
Yes, sir. Just filled up my truck with some gas, and man, these prices are better. But Jesus, man, I do miss those $2 gallons a day.
That Trump era gas price for sure. And we have Andy here.
It's all good, Andy. We're here back and ready to talk our mouths off and keep you guys informed and let you know what's going on.
Well, it's a nice, beautiful day here in Chicago. Wherever you listeners are, we hope you're sitting cool, feeling good, and let's jump right into it. So, Andy, it looks like college football started up again. So, what's going on with that right now?
So yeah, man, and, with school getting back together, but when this episode drops, Labor Day is we went through Labor Day. So that to me that means it's college football season. So
Happy Labor Day for all you people that are working and you bums that aren't. Get out there and get a job.
you bums. And there's plenty of work right now. So, but yeah, college football this week we just had week 0, so it's like a handful of games. And next week Labor Day is the week 1, and there's a full slate of games. So yeah, man, I love college football. It's gonna be probably the usual 4 in the playoffs at the end of the year. They're predicting Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, and then the 4th team is kind of up for grabs for that playoffs. But with Big Ten recently getting paid for their TV deal, the SEC being one of the top conference right now, it's an interesting time to watch college football with all the changes that they're going. Is the landscape of college football is changing with the new conference realignments, with old teams going to new conferences, and looks like a conference is going to die off, the
Yeah,
Pac-12.
I know you mentioned it a couple podcasts ago. So is the hype diminished for college football with this restructuring now that it's like on the football just started?
So the Big Ten, so the Big Two is Big Ten, SEC. Then there's 3 other conferences. The Big Ten recently had USC and UCLA join the Big Ten, and that's not going to start till like 2024, I believe, or 2023. Or so Big Ten, just their TV deal just came up, man, and they got fucking paid. They got like billions of dollars to get their football games get broadcast around 3 networks: Fox, NBC, and CBS. So they're kind of doing like NFL, where they have a game in the afternoon. They have a game at like the first game's like around 11. They're gonna have another game at 2:30, and then they're gonna have a primetime game at 7, broadcast within these 3 networks. And they got fucking paid. And in the process of them doing this, they killed the Pac-12. Who knows if they're gonna make it? There's other teams talking about leaving that conference. That's like the West Coast, and there's still a lot of hype, but it's like they're trying to become like the NFL, where there's 2 big conferences with 20 teams each. Right now, Big Ten has 16 teams, and the SEC has 16 or 14 teams, and everybody else kind of sucks. Not sucks, but they're like, they don't matter, because it's going to be between the Big Ten and the SEC. So NFL, NFC, AFC type of deal.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really excited for NFL, but I'm sure college football, regardless if they restructured and move things around and people might be upset, I'm sure people are still hyped for it to start.
Yeah, like Notre Dame, I'm a big Notre Dame fan. They just re-upped with NBC for their home games to be broadcast on NBC. They're getting $60 million. And the Big Ten teams, which there was rumors Notre Dame was going to join the Big Ten. they're getting about 60 to 70 million a year, and then in like 3 years, 4 years, is gonna be 100 million a year per school. So think about that. Like it's a lot of fucking money being thrown around. Um, but keep listening here. I'll give everybody an update on all that because college football to me, the tradition, the pageantry, to me, it's very key in the regional alignment. It was a big thing, but now it's just morphing into like professional football, like XFL and AFL or the USFL that recently came out. And pretty soon, I'm pretty sure college players are gonna get paid. And even EA, I believe, is having a new NCAA football game come out, and I heard they're gonna kick back to some of the players that are referenced there, and that they're on those games.
Oh, nice, man. So, Notre Dame, man, are they projected to lead this year, or are they gonna be mediocre?
So this year, right now, the preseason poll has them ranked fifth in the country, and Ohio State is number two. Their first game's against Ohio State, and they're ranked two. So we'll see how they do. I don't think they're gonna make the playoff this year. They didn't make it last year, but they're in a bowl six. One of the bowls, the New Year bowls. We'll see. They got a new coach. Their old coach left, and we'll see how it goes. But to me, it's a rebuild year. So I'm hoping they win at least like 9 games, 8, 9 games.
Yeah, because the coach left, right?
Yeah, he left to LSU. He came in like at 6 in the morning, had a team meeting. He's like, I'm out later. It was like a 5-minute meeting. He just left in his Cadillac and went to Louisiana.
He flicked them off like Mike Ditka.
Yeah. He's like, I'm getting paid. I'm out. And he left. But yeah, I'll keep you guys, everybody updated. I just wanted to say, I'm glad college football. There was a couple good games. Yeah, there was a good game yesterday. Yesterday, the Northwestern versus Nebraska came down to the wire, and Northwestern won. And that game was played in Ireland. The other thing I got, which I'm kind of fucking pissed off, which is with the White Sox with La Russa. It's just like this whole fucking season's been a disappointment, and there's a lot of hype around the Sox, just injuries. Tony La Russa's mismanagement of the game has been just. I remember talking to people at work in like June, I was telling them like La Russa needs to go. Like I think the game passed them by, and just these. How can I put this nicely? He has not been good this year. He wasn't that great last year. He got him to the playoffs. He just fucked it up, and they're just not good, man. They're not good.
Yeah, man, it is. I'm a Sox fan. I don't know if I'm disappointed because I didn't have my hypes up too high. I thought this year was like a bridge to the playoffs, so that possibly next year we can really hit it hard. But I was still kind of hopeful that this year we would make a good playoff run. Now, granted, there's still a good month of baseball left. Anything could happen in that month. But I think right now they're like on a 3-game losing streak. They're under 500 again. They were a couple games above 500, which was hopeful. But they could never climb out of that third spot, man. And we have a weak division, so you just need to get on a hot run, and you can be in first place. We were like 2 games away from first place at one point, about a week or so ago.
They were a half game out, I think earlier in the week, and then they fell off. And then yesterday, they lost yesterday, and then they were what was I saw the stands? They were like 4 games out, and
Right.
2 other teams were ahead of them. And I just like, I was doing the math. I'm like, those teams got to lose a lot, and the Sox need to get fucking hot. And like you said, there's a good month worth of games left. But I just, the way they've been going this whole season, I don't see that happening with La Russa. unless like Larusa puts his drink down and gets his shit together. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I kind of foresee this is probably going to be his last year, unless they make like a win division or wild card win, something like that, where it kind of shows some promise. My feeling is that this is probably his last year. The Sox traditionally don't typically get rid of coaches, like at the before the end of the season. So I'm thinking La Russa's going to play out the year, and depending on if they make the playoffs or not, he's probably going to be gone. But yeah, I think that the hardest part, because I don't think La Russa's a terrible coach, but I think with the injuries, it definitely compounded the problems for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the the injuries. I mean, you can't. Everybody's gonna deal with injuries. You do what you can, but the way he's handled the bullpen, it's the pitching. It's been horrible, dude. It's been horrible. And then I don't know if you got it. I'm in a group text. Danny's in it. I don't know if you had a chance to see. I sent this video where Russo's walking out, and the guy goes, "Pinch hit, put this guy in," and Russo turns around and he's like, "Huh?" It's like pinch hit so and so or something, and he fucking listened to that guy, and the guy scored. He got a hit and he got a run in. And then they're like, people on Twitter started putting memes like, "Put this guy is the new manager of the White Sox." So
Right.
it was fucking hilarious, and I seen pictures of like LaRusso fucking sleeping. I seen things. He's forgotten a couple things. To me, I'm just like, unfortunately, I'm like the game's passed him by, man. Like, it just he doesn't. He should just retire and be happy, man. He's won a lot of championships, but I don't think he's gonna win one here with Chicago.
Yeah. No, man, that sleeping thing, I think it's just hate memes out there of people. They're just looking for ways to hate and kind of put visceral stuff out there. It's a video that's slowed down. If you look at it, the video is at a slower frame than the rest of it. So when he closes his eyes, which he does close it for, a second or two, it just like makes it even worse.
So
So because the video slowed
you
down.
think he's thinking and strategizing when he has his eyes closed, or he's like, man, I need a drink?
Well, he only had his eye closed for like 2 seconds. So I mean, if you're gonna call the guy a has been for closing his eyes for 2 seconds, but somebody slows the video down, it makes it look like he's sleeping for 5 or 6
Does two
seconds. That
seconds mean is that a sufficient enough of time to say he dozed off?
well, I guess if you close it for 2 seconds, then
Did
that's
his
the
like
case.
head go down for a second and he got up?
No, no, it wasn't that.
I
It
think I
wasn't.
seen that one.
Uh,
Nah, man, but LaRussa, I mean, like I said, he had his time, and even last year there was rumbling. Some players didn't like his managing style, and he's good old school football. He's good old fashioned baseball, but I think the way he's handled the bullpen the last 2 years, he doesn't have it no more, man. I hate to say it. Like I was hoping it would really work out. It didn't. But it's time to move on because your core of this team, I think you have like this is like their final year, or I think Abreu is like in a final year, and you got some other young baseball players, Eloy and Luis Roberts, Moncada, all those guys. I think most of them, their contracts are going to be up in the next year or two. So at most, you got another 2 years, and then the bull, pitching has always been a fucking issue. I don't know if they're gonna sign any more pitching. Knowing the Sox history, they're not crazy about signing. They sign a lot of pitchers that broken down and they kind of rehab, but they're not gonna. They're not. I haven't really seen. I mean, they developed Cease and some other guys, but I just see their time's up, man. I for Larusa, and I don't see him making a run and making any type of playoffs, a wild card, a play-in game, the division. I just don't see that happening. Even if they make it, what are they gonna do? I mean, I don't think they terrify anybody. I mean, they beat up Houston. That's a pretty good fucking team, and then they lose to like Kansas City and some like piece of shit teams, and I'm just like, of course. Like you guys fucking can't beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. You can't, and then you play up to the level of those good teams and you win a series, but then you fucking come out stinking against Kansas City. Like it's fucking Kansas City, man. They suck.
Yeah, I think it is weird that they beat up on these harder teams, and then the teams that you figure, all right, this is our chance to gain some momentum, and they struggle. So it is weird. So I think what I'm hearing is that, man, it's time to get onto the Bears because they went undefeated in the playoffs or in the preseason, man. Is that what I'm hearing?
In my group text, yeah, like yeah, the Bears are preseason champs. They went undefeated.
Right.
So get that fucking hang that banner up. Let's get this shit going. But
I got the banner in the front in my front
shit,
door already. I got the
3-0
Bears
preseason, baby.
I
Yeah,
got the banner up, man.
that's what I'm talking about. Like I like what I saw in this final game, but yeah, I feel like it's kind of bullshit. I mean, and then they got the 49ers the first week. Just real quick, I don't see them beating the 49ers, even if they put that rookie quarterback or not the rookie, the second year Trey Lance. And then I think they got the Packers, right?
Yeah,
And
Packers week 2, Monday night, which they typically don't do good on
yeah. And Monday night?
Oh, no, Sunday night. No, I think
Sunday
it's
night.
Sunday.
Oh,
Yeah,
national audience. Oh yeah, it's gonna be a shit show, dude.
Right.
It's gonna, yeah. And then fucking Rodgers, I own you shit. Just go, man. We're fucking. Now I'm getting depressed. Then 0-2 right off the bat, and then there's a statistic in the NFL when you start 0-2, like you are like 80, like 90%, you're not making the playoffs that year. There's like this NFL statistic.
Yeah, but did you read the other statistic that if you go undefeated in the preseason, you're statistically better chances to make the playoffs? I read that this morning.
Oh man, bro.
So it's statistic versus statistic here, man. We'll see what happens.
I like my numbers better because this is the preseason got shortened to 3 games.
Oh, you're right. So maybe if we played 4 games, we would have lost.
Nah, if they would have played 4, I'm like, okay, they're fucking for real. Let's do this. But no, I don't think that's gonna happen. But yeah, now I'm really went to deep dive into that fucking start of the season. I'm like, oh man. So yeah, we'll see. We'll let you know how that goes. But you guys let us know what you think how your sports team, especially the Bears, are going to do at the NFL. I know we got some listeners in California, across this country. If you follow football, let us know at ffnquestions@gmail.com. And let us know how you think your team's going to do, and then we could talk about it in future shows. Because I feel like now more people get NFL news. There's ESPN and Fox Sports, but I know a lot of people now listen to podcasts or like internet shows or YouTube reaction shows more and more. They're getting more unpopular the last couple years. I even know my cousin who lives in Minnesota. He was telling me he listens to a podcast to know what's going on with the Bears, which was kind of shocking to me. But just the sign of the times, and people are just consuming the way they know sports events now even more differently. So, well, let us know what you guys think. But with that being said, let's go over to Danny. I see he watched a show. It's called Downfall. So let us know what that's about.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys heard about this. I've been like into these like mystery documentary things, docudramas or whatever.
Docu-series or a documentary?
Well, this one's a docu-series, but I've been like getting into that, like watching documentaries, watching like I watched one about Staircase where this guy threw his wife down the stairs, and this one in particular is not.
Wait, what? How did he throw her down the stairs?
Well, it's a long drawn out thing, and actually,
he literally pushed her down.
Well, the start of the show is a different one, not this Downfall one. The Staircase one. It's like a 6-episode documentary thing, and it's where the guy's supposedly he was like in the hot tub that he came inside and his wife was just at the bottom of the stairs, and so he calls 911. He's like an actor or something. I forget what he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then through investigation and investigating or whatever, at the end they ended up finding out that he threw his wife down the stairs and staged the whole thing.
They're like in New York or something, right?
Yeah, I
In the
do
East
kind of
Coast
remember
somewhere.
like an East Coast. Yeah, it's been a while since I watched it, but that was actually a pretty good documentary. But yeah, this one here, Downfall Boeing. It's about the Boeing aircraft. They used to be based out of Seattle, and it's been a while since I've seen this documentary, probably like a month or two. But it was a company based in Seattle, and they were huge on engineering. So they had like this huge engineering firm, like hundreds of engineers, and their profit margin was very low because were they had that mentality of kind of like that German engineering BMW stuff where we're going to engineer the shit out of this equipment and make it the best that it can be, and that's what we stand for. So this documentary shows them in Seattle putting that mindset where they had quality control over quality control all throughout. And then Chicago actually offered them like this awesome deal with all these like tax benefits to move their facilities here. So they ended up moving to the Chicago area. And the documentary goes into where that was part of where this company started going downhill, where they started cutting corners, they got sold, or somebody merged or bought them. And
Boeing?
yeah, the Boeing company.
Yeah.
And so started getting to the point where they started trimming a lot of those special features because they're like, oh, well, why do we need, 20 inspectors? Can't you 5 guys do it? And then, why do we need so many engineers? Let's outsource some of this work and it'll be cheaper. And then why do we need this specialty part? Let's, get this cheaper alternative version. And so they started cutting a lot of corners to the point where their competitors started taking over because everybody, as soon as you heard Boeing, you're like, that's an awesome aircraft.
It's the standard of the industry.
Right. It's like, it's the Cadillac of the industry. It's like when you hear that name, you're like, man, this is a good plane. And so these other aircraft company fabricators started gaining momentum and started, building better planes or whatever. And so the documentary goes into all these shortcomings that they started doing to the point where they kind of reinvented an airplane that they already did, and they just slapped on this additive to kind of make it look newer, but it wasn't really tested. And that's what the documentary really dives into, how they added this feature to kind of stabilize this larger plane because they ended up putting like these large jet engines onto an aircraft that they never tested. And these newer Boeing airplanes from the documentary, they started crashing. There was like 2 or 3 crashes. And right away, Boeing's like, it's the pilot. The pilot's screwing up. The pilots are screwing up.
It's a drug.
And yeah, so the documentary goes into it. At the end, they, kind of surmise that it was Boeing. It was a shortcome where no matter what the pilot would do, 2 systems that are inside of the Boeing aircraft were fighting each other to the point where the pilots would lose control and the aircrafts would go down. But I kind of recall this happening live when it happened, which I think it was like 10 years ago that the actual events happened. And I remember it. I'm not a huge flyer, so it didn't really impact me directly, but I do remember all of this going on. And I think Netflix did a pretty good job. Sometimes you see documentaries and you kind of see they're just kind of snowballing a bunch of the bad stuff to kind of prove their point, and they're not being really objective. But this one, I got to say, was one of the better documentaries that they did. And I do recommend for people that are into stuff like that, documentaries, to go check that out. In fact, I just finished this other one that I really didn't care for as much. I don't know if you guys remember that DB Cooper that ended up robbing.
The plane. He jumped off the plane with cash.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that, Noel?
Yeah, actually, that's a pretty old story. It's pretty popular. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's something that I've seen a few documentaries before, but there's a new one that just came out by Netflix as well, and that one I gotta say wasn't as good. It was like a 6-episode thing, And for that one, the first couple episodes were good to half decent, but then you could kind of feel like they're stretching it out, and I'm like, why make it a 6 episode thing if you don't have 6 episode of content? It's like towards the end they just started throwing whatever they had, just to kind of fill up the episodes. So that is a documentary that maybe is not as good, but it's a cool thought because I think that's really interested, that
Did
DB Cooper thing.
did they name? I seen on, I don't know if you guys know Coast to Coast AM. They had an investigator that he says that he solved it. It was some guy living in California. Did they say
Yeah,
that in the document? I remember hearing this like before the pandemic.
yeah. It was before the pandemic, and the documentary does go into it because National Geographic was going to do a documentary on it, and they had hired this one investigator
Yeah.
that is part of this documentary as well, the DB Cooper one. And in the documentary, he's got all this stuff to show that it's this guy living in Seattle or wherever he was living. And they confront him. He says no. The FBI thought that it was him as well, and they got all these interview tapes and these huge files based on it being him. And in the documentary, before they finalize it, the guy ends up dying, and he never confirmed or denied or anything like that, that he was DB Cooper. So um, I think for the most part we'll probably never find out who he was. What I thought was cool that I didn't know was that DB Cooper wasn't actually even his name.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I think his name was Daniel, if I remember right, or Dan or
I
something like
don't
that.
remember. I just know, yeah, there's like a drawing of him, and I forgot what name, and like the flight was like, it was just him, right? He made him take off again or some shit, and
Right, right.
jumped off. Yeah.
But yeah, that's another documentary that, unlike Downfall, wasn't as good. So sometimes you get a hit, sometimes you don't. But Downfall for Boeing, I thought it was really interesting, especially because I remember it happening live. And then at Chicago, it plays a role in it just because they moved their facility here. And actually, I think they just left Chicago and they're not here anymore. But a good documentary for you people out there interested. Something else that I did, man, I was just beat Ghost of Tsushima on PlayStation 5. I checked my counter on it. 87 hours it took me to beat it. Ghost of Tsushima on PlayStation 5. And man, I gotta say it was super awesome, man. That game was really, really good. And it's probably like one of the last few games that I've played that I really enjoyed, and I wanted to like do about as much as I could in the game to get every little ounce of it. But yeah, man, it was super cool, man. I don't know if you guys heard of it or even know the premise of Ghost of Tsushima.
I don't have PlayStation. I haven't had one for a bit, so I don't have access to the game yet until they bring it over to PC, which hopefully be in the future. But I do know it's about like the samurais, and it has like really good combat system in terms of using like a bladed weapon and all that.
Yeah, that's true. It's really samurai based. They do take liberties and they don't use things that are 100% authentic to the timeline. But the game, what I remember seeing it first in the trailers years ago before they released it, because it actually got released for PlayStation 4, and then they released a PlayStation 5 patch, and that's when I started playing it. And back when the trailer was, I was just like, man, this looks really cinematic and really up close because the camera's really close to the characters. It had like a Resident Evil 4 kind of vibe where the character is so big on the screen that he kind of takes up a lot of room. And it kind of gave me that vibe the first time I saw PlayStation Resident Evil 4's trailer as well. And when you end up playing it, the character is big on the screen, but the cinematography on it, the storyline, it's a really cool story about this one guy. He goes out there with his family. Everybody gets demolished. The uncle ends up getting captured. He's near death, and then he ends up. It's the story of him trying to come back to free his uncle from the captors that are coming in, the Mongols that captured him, and defeating them, and then ended up getting the uncle, and then going after like the main guy that ended up evading the Tsushima Island. And really cool, man. Really good backstory. The game actually ended up raising money to help rebuild Tsushima Island, and it's a very revered game apparently because now they're making even a movie on it. So really cool, man. I mean, it's too bad if since you don't have a PlayStation, you can't play it. But it is on PlayStation 4, like I mentioned, and it was super awesome, man. The blade action was cool. It's almost more like real life where you just have to slash people once or twice and you kind of kill them versus something where you got to hit them like 100 times for enemies to be killed. So you have to be on the defensive. It's really cool. I really enjoyed it, and a lot of the little touches make this one of the more beautiful games that I've seen, and especially on PlayStation 5. It just looks awesome, runs fast, and it has some really, really good video, man. I really enjoyed it a lot.
And I can only imagine how good it looks because the PS4 version, it looked really beautiful. So on the PS5, with all the ray tracing and all the other shit that they got going, I could only imagine, dude. I heard about this game a few years back when my cousin Ismail played it. He said it was like a masterpiece. He said it was one of the best games he's played on the PS4. And so now that they have all the updates on it and PS5 and all that, I can only imagine. It's a really good game.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I don't think you'll have to wait too much, just because PlayStation's been releasing more and more PC games. Just recently, they just released Spider-Man, that
Yeah.
first Spider-Man that came out, and man, I've seen some videos with mods and stuff that people are doing on PCs, and it's nuts. And God of War released before the Uncharted collection, and it's more and more PlayStation's releasing on PC. So much so that I heard that they might release like their own launcher, kind of like Epic and Steam and stuff like that. So there's some word that PlayStation might start exploring PC gaming more and start releasing more games there. So we'll have to see. I don't think you'll have to wait too much longer for maybe Ghost of Tsushima. Hopefully you'll get it soon.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's the hope, man. They're definitely bringing a lot of games over, so it's only a matter of time.
yeah, for sure. But Noel, let's get over to you, man. I'm kind of interested in this as well. It's a Hulu movie, Prey. It's the new Predator movie. Uh, how'd you like it? I'm hearing kind of mixed vibes out there from it. So tell us what you think about it.
Yeah, dude. So I watched it this past week, and it was one of those movies that I knew I was gonna watch eventually, but I didn't get around to it right when it came out. And anyway, it's a pretty short movie. It's not like too long, maybe about a little over an hour and a half. And I really liked it, man. And I didn't have any expectations going into it. I saw the trailer and I was like, maybe it could be good. Maybe it'll be woke. It's one of those things because all the movies nowadays they have a certain agenda and certain boxes they want to check off. So I'm just like, they doing this again? Are they just trying to prop up one gender over the other and make one gender look stupid and one gender look awesome? But actually, in this movie, they don't really do that at all. It kind of reminded me of like back in the old days, you had high quality writing that allowed for multiple characters of various backgrounds to be, pretty cool in their own right. And the main character, this female, she's a member of a tribe who is kind of going against the grain and trying to become a warrior as opposed to like a gatherer like most of her other female uh, you know tribe members. And so as she's trying to do this, her older brother is kind of rooting for her, but at the same time kind of telling her like, hey, there are limitations. You might not be able to do this. Just be prepared for that. And she wants to take on this kind of test, test of like warrior spirit, and she has to hunt down this animal that's been, kind of killing off like tribe members. It's like a tiger, right? Like a pretty big like mountain lion tiger type thing, and so she's trying to hunt it and save one of her tribe members, and she almost kills the tiger. She actually almost does it. Um, but things happen, so she's unable to do it, and so it's pretty much everybody thinks, yeah, you know what, she's not cut out for this. Let's just have her be the gatherer or whatever. But along the way, she notices like some peculiar stuff going around, especially in the town, in the tribe village that she lives in. She noticed some weird stuff, and on the way that they were hunting the lion, they noticed some tracks that were like from some big creature that she couldn't really pinpoint what it was. She'd never seen something like that before. It turned out to be predator, and so you hear like sounds and you see lights in the sky, and you don't really know what the hell's going on, but it turns out that yeah, predator is being dropped off. And I don't know if you guys know much about predator lore, but in the lore, predator was an alien race that would be going to different planets with the goal of like hunting the strongest thing on that planet and being able to kill it. And that's how you prove. It's kind of like a tribal thing as well. Like it's how you prove you're a warrior. You go to a planet that you've never been to, and you either conquer the planet or you kill the strongest creature on that planet. And so
Right.
that's what the predator was doing. It was trying to hunt down whatever the strongest thing was, and it encounters animals. It encounters like the tribe members, and then finally she ends up coming against it. And man, it's pretty good, dude. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of action in it, but there's also like strategy. And it's not like she just comes out here like, I'm a woman, I can do everything. No, she has to think. She has to be smart, because this creature, this predator, is incredibly powerful, stronger than the strongest bear you've ever seen. So it can overpower a bear. It can overpower any animal. It has the high tech. Although what's cool about this one is it's not the same Predator as the one with the Arnold Schwarzenegger film. It's an actual prequel to that movie. So it does tie into it a little bit, but it's a prequel to that. And its technology, although it's still a very, very advanced compared to the tribe members, you can see some differences from the first movie and this one, that you could tell like it's an earlier prototype of the technology, prior to when he went to, the jungle in the 80s or whenever Predator 1 takes place.
It's because if they would have he would have come back to the 80s, Schwarzenegger would have fucked them up again.
Right? So
Yeah, I mean, because these guys are Native Americans, right? They just have bow and arrows and spears and shit.
No, not
right.
this girl. Then she's smart. Come on now.
Well, I mean, her tribe.
She has
I'm
a
saying.
rock and shit or something.
Yeah,
Well, maybe a rock too. Yeah.
she uses an axe. Or it's more like a hatchet, I guess you could say. Yeah, something like a hatchet, but it's with a stone, and she'll sharpen the stone. So they're still very primitive, um, but they're connected to nature. They're really good at hunting and tracking. So it's not like they're helpless. They're still warriors, and
Right.
I,
Right.
I actually really dug that vibe. It's kind of like Apocalypto meets Predator. So like
Sweet.
I really dug that part of it.
Yeah. I saw the thing on Hulu like on my screen, like what the fuck is this? And I think the little picture had like the three dots. I'm like, is this Predator? And I watched the trailer. Like it is fucking Predator. Like man, this shit went straight to Hulu. Like fuck, they don't even want to put it in the theater. So like,
I was
and I was
actually
just
surprised. Yeah.
yeah. And then I was like, I don't know. Like I kind of want to see it and I don't. And I was just like like. And then I saw the female, the girl, and I'm like, it's gonna be some woke shit or something. And
Yeah, I don't
that's
blame
when
you
I
for
was
thinking
like,
that,
I
dude.
don't know, like I gotta see it before I shit on it. But I'm in no rush to. I do want to see it, but I'm in no rush to see it.
I understand why you'd think that, man. That's kind of the way things have been lately, the past couple years. So I don't blame you for having that line of thought, but I'll say you're wrong, dude. Just like I was wrong, and I'm glad I watched it. Whenever you do get around to it, I have a feeling you're probably gonna like it, because she earns everything she gets. Nothing is just handed to her. I will say there's like one scene in particular that I kind of critiqued because I'm like, would a female really be able to do that? Maybe, maybe not. If she's trained, maybe. But other than that, most of it she has to use strategy. She knows she's up against something that's very intelligent, that has technology, and they do speak their native language for a bit, but then they also do English. So it's like a combination. It's pretty cool to see that. And yeah, I mean the ending was satisfying. I was really satisfied with the ending, and I'm eager to see what they're gonna do with this going forward. I don't think she'll be in the next movie or anything. I think it was a one and done type deal. But I actually liked her as the actress. It reminded me of Alien. So like Ripley, like she was a cool character in her own right. They didn't have to prop her up to be like, feminine power, this and that. She was just a cool character in a shitty situation, and she did the best she could to get out of it. And that's kind of what happens here. It's definitely more in the thriller horror aspect, kind of like Alien was, versus like an action adventure, which is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see a Predator that went back to its roots, like the original first Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where it was more like a horror thing. It was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what kind of creatures killing everybody off in the jungle? And that's kind of the feeling I had. It was like it felt like Jason, like Friday the 13th, but Predator. And so I was like, fuck yeah, dude. I really enjoyed it. I would probably give it 7.5 out of 10. I would have given an 8, but there was one scene that like I said, yeah, that I would have changed a little bit. I would have tweaked a little bit. But 7.5 out of 10 is what I would give that. I recommend everyone get a chance to watch it. Um, and I also watched another movie that was really highly rated, man. I think just about everyone unanimously loved this movie, and so I was like, you know what, I got to check it out, dude. I'm not the biggest fan of this franchise, but I had to check it out. And that's Top Gun Maverick. It's a sequel to the original Top Gun that came back out in the '80s, and I did see the original, but that was like maybe years ago. So it wasn't really fresh in my head, but I still kind of remember the gist of what happened. And I remember Tom Cruise, remember Val Kilmer, and I remember Tom Cruise had a partner that passed away in the first movie. So in this
Goose.
movie, Goose, that's right. In this movie, Goose had a son. His name is Rooster, and Rooster is also part of the Navy. And it looks like there's some drama between Maverick and Rooster, and so they kind of focus on that as well as Maverick being at the tail end of his career. He's already getting ready to retire, and he wants to still fly the planes. He still wants to be an active part of everything, but the military themselves don't want to let him be part of it anymore. They're specifically like trying to sabotage his career, or not necessarily sabotage, but like they're trying to limit his involvement in future projects and future missions. But Val Kilmer rises up the ranks, and he ends up giving him an opportunity to train the new group of people that will take over for like any kind of special missions, kind of like he used to do back within the days where he flew with a Goose and all that, an Iceman. So anyway, he gets to train this new group of people, and one of them happens to be Rooster, Goose's son. And so there's drama and all that, but apart from the drama between them two is the very real fact that this team has to be prepared to go on a very difficult mission, a mission that they might not come back from because the odds are so stacked against them. The equipment that they have to use, they're going to be using F-16s or 18s, F-18s. I think it's F-18s, and they're going up against like Russian or something like that. Military aircrafts that are on another level. So it's like all the odds are stacked against them, and Maverick has to prepare them for this mission. And man, dude, that's pretty much the gist of the plot. But in terms of the actual like production and the quality of videography, I really liked it, dude. It felt like I was flying up in there with them. Like the angles they use, the way they show the speed and the way the environment, the cinematography in general was on point, dude. I really like that. Um, it was cool seeing Tom Cruise in the movie. He still looks really young, dude. I don't know what his regimen is, but this guy looks like he doesn't age. Obviously, he looks older than he did in the original
Scientologist,
movie,
man.
right? Shit.
Do you think they CG his face to make him look young, or is that just the way he looks?
I had
He's
that
always
question,
looked
dude.
young in all his movies. It's weird. I mean, he looks a little bit older, but like he doesn't have wrinkles. I think he's maybe put on a couple like 10 pounds or something, but he doesn't look like yeah. Top Gun's like I think in the late '80s, early '90s. Like think about that, dude. That's almost what 30, 40 plus years or 30 years ago. So he should be like in his late 50s,
He was born, I
and
think, in '62, so he
yeah.
would be 60 years old right now.
He doesn't look
Yeah.
like he's 60. Yeah, so
No, yeah.
it's it might. I'm assuming he does have some type of regimen, but a lot of makeup. But he's aged pretty well. I'll give you that.
Well, what I was curious about is like, how I don't know if you've seen the movie Irishman.
Yeah,
Right, like that de aging looked terrible, man.
Yeah, the question I have is that because I mean, Robert De Niro's a lot older. He's like 70s, So I mean, to make him like look like 30 and 40, you need some like miracle CGI. But to make Tom Cruise, who generally looks younger just by himself, would you be able to use a little bit of CGI to make him look just a little bit younger? You know what I
Right,
mean?
right, for
So
sure.
maybe that's what they did. So they didn't go heavy on it, but he definitely looked like he was in his 40s, 50s. And the guy can still move around, man. They had, one of those scenes where they're playing like on the beach again and shit. And I started laughing. I'm like, hey, at least this time they have girls, It's not just little
yeah.
guys and shit.
Like when you saw the sequel to Guardians of the Galaxy, and they have that opening scene where it's Kurt Russell and they're playing all those music and shit, and like you look when I saw that scene, that shit looks so real because he was in a lot of movies in the '70s and '80s, and he looked just like that. And I'm like, God damn, man! Like if that's some CGI, we're fucking there where you could do anything. And they asked Kurt Russell, like, is that you in the beginning? And he said that's all him, but then nah, they're like, well, that's not true. They used a stand-in or something, but a lot of it was CGI. But if you look at that scene where they're in the car and the mom's telling the guy about her dad that Kurt Russell played, and you look at him, and I'm like, fuck. To me, I'm like, that should look real as fuck. And
Yeah.
that's probably one of the best CGI where they made him look young scenes ever compared to the Irishman, because Irishman, yeah, it was a hack job, dude. There was some like this is not believable. Like it was not good. But if you look at the Guardians of the Galaxy, the sequel, that Kurt Russell in the beginning when he's really young, I'm like, holy shit, that looks real to me.
Well, I think, like Noel said, it was a bigger leap for the Irishman. You had the age 80-year-old guys to make them look 30s. And, the only question I have about Maverick is that they play the Danger Zone song, man. Is
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
yeah?
dude. They
Because,
play
man,
some cool songs in there, man. Yeah.
in the original Top Gun, man, I just recently watched it actually because I was interested in watching Maverick, but I'm like, man, I haven't seen Top Gun ever. I hadn't seen it ever. I knew of it, but I never seen it. And I watched it, and to be honest, it kind of turned me off from watching Maverick. I mean, that Danger Zone song, man, it must have came out like 6 times. And then that Take My Breath Away song, that was like another 6 times. And I like, dude, what was the budget on this movie? You guys couldn't get like 3 other songs to kind of pepper in there. I was
I
just
mean, you're
like,
into
Jesus
that
Christ.
sex scene where that song was playing and shit, that ultimate bang scene.
Right, man. I'm like, damn, man, again. It's like every time that chick would walk in, take my breath away, and I was just like, damn, man. It's like her following me everywhere she goes. That song is just playing. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, dude, this movie, yeah, they had a much bigger budget. I'll tell you that much. It definitely didn't look cheap at all, man. The whole movie from start to finish, I'm sure it cost them a pretty penny because it looked good. It looked really good, and it was a genuinely good movie that didn't have like woke influence. It just felt like a good movie, man. Like the old days, you just go to the theater and you watch just a good solid 2 hour movie and then you could, move on with your life. And that's what it was. It had a decent plot from start to finish. I wanted to watch the whole thing through. It's not like I wanted to take a break and like play with my phone or go on Instagram or fucking YouTube and shit. No, I wanted to see what was going to happen next. What was going to happen next? Are they going to be ready for this mission? Are they going to survive this? And man, it was pretty cool. And like I said, if you're into planes and you're into like, all that stuff, I remember back in the day, fucking Ace Combat on PS2. So like I do like flying stuff and yeah. So this was a cool game, dude. I mean, a cool movie. Yeah, I do recommend people watch it when they get a chance. I would probably give this one an 8 out of 10.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's pretty much catching up on what I've seen recently. It looks like now we're gonna just go ahead and get into our article of the week. All right. So here we have an article. It comes from returntonow.net. There are a few other websites that will have this same information, but this is where we got this particular article. And the headline reads, U.S. Appeals Court agrees to hear Amish farmer Amos Miller's food freedom case. And so if anyone is not aware, this Amish farmer named Amos Miller, he has this, huge farm where he has, cattle, he has, chickens, he has pigs, he has a lot of food and stuff like that, and he has about 4,000 members in this private food club to whom he sells, all this, meat and dairy products, and they're not USDA adulterated, so he doesn't go through the process that the USDA mandates farmers to go through. And because he hasn't gone through this process and because they ordered him to stop and he still hasn't, he is right now facing fines upwards of $300,000 and possible jail time because he's been selling all this meat that's hasn't gone through the rigorous process of USDA certification that would allow for the addition of preservatives that are with chemicals and stuff like that. So um, really quick, it says here, Amos Miller says he's being persecuted by the federal government for practicing his religious freedom to raise and prepare food the way he believes God intended food to be raised and prepared in accordance with nature. Miller practices rotational grazing on his small, holistically managed, century-old farm in Bird in Hand, Pennsylvania. His heritage bred cows are raised on organic pastures, with the chickens following behind, eating bugs from their droppings, and wave-fed pigs trampling all the fertilizer back into the ground behind them. He has about 4,000 members part of this club that sell meat, eggs, dairy products, as well as fermented fruits and vegetables, and they're willing to spend as much money as it costs to get it shipped across the country. They don't trust going to the grocery stores, and hey, I don't blame them. But last spring, a federal judge ordered Miller to stop all production or all sales of the meat, and he sent U.S. Marshals to search his property, search his store and his freezers to take inventory of all his meat product, and they're gonna visit him every few months to make sure that he hasn't consistently slaughtered more animals and that he hasn't sold any more of the product. Unfortunately, yeah, last summer the judge also ordered Miller to pay $250,000 for contempt of court, and he also had to pay the salaries of the USDA investigators that were assigned to his case. And now it's about $300,000, and which pretty much amounts to enough to put him out of business. In May, the judge told Miller he had no right to represent himself in court after Miller attempted to fire his court-appointed attorney, whom he believed was not making any effort to defend him. The guy was probably paid off. And so stuff like that happens all the time. Miller's an Amish farmer, so I understand why he would probably want to represent himself because, yeah, it's just that's the way things go nowadays. So Miller is taking the matter into his own hands, and he's whether or not he has the legal right to defend himself in the U.S. He's appealing it in Philadelphia, and is delaying this upcoming September district court hearing. So people are asking, well, what's the big deal here? What's the crime? What's he doing? So the slaughtering and processing of the meat he raises on his own farm and selling it fresh frozen to his members of the private buying club who've all signed contracts stating that they understand the meat is not processed in the USDA or treated with USDA chemicals and preservatives because that's how they want it and that's how they're wanting to buy this. but the USDA thinks that its customers are too dumb to think for themselves and that they need somebody to protect them, something like the government. So there is a rigorous process that they have to go through, and the USDA processing plants are required to treat all meat, even local, grass-fed, and the organic variety, with synthetic preservatives. And it says here they often use citric acid, which they think comes from origins or lemons, but instead it's actually a modified substance made from corn, and they don't even label it on the meat. So the USDA processing plants require the meat to be treated with a chemical cocktail of citric acid, lactic acid, and peracetic acid. So that this is all comes from a customer that handles Miller's website and modern communications, mainly because Miller's Amish, so he doesn't really deal with modern uh, things like that. And the peracetic acid is toxic, and citric and lactic acid are GMO because they're made from the corn. And corn, I don't know if you know, but the majority of it, if not all of it, is now GMO. So it's really hard to find the old good stuff. And it's not lactic acid coming from the fermentation of sauerkraut. It's all created in a dish in a lab. It's synthetic sterilizer that causes many health problems. And so our members don't want any of that, said Miller. They want fresh, raw meat with no additives. Our members want it straight from the farm with no preservatives in it. And, it goes into more details in here. I would recommend people give this a quick read. It's not a very long article, but it does raise a lot of questions here in terms of how the government is persecuting, just innocent farmers that are trying to do the right thing. And especially in Amish, I thought they had certain protections. Apparently, they do not. Apparently, they're like the rest of us. Um, but yeah, it brings up a lot of questions, man. What do you guys think about all this?
Yeah, man. I kind of spoke to you a little briefly about it, Noel. I try to find the other side of this because I get people's comments about Fox News. Maybe they're a little too much to one side. So I was legit trying to find the other side. I went onto CNN's website. I cannot find anything on this Amish guy. I tried to find a few other left, sided news broadcasts. I could not find anything on this. So I found it very peculiar that the left isn't really talking about this, or at least give me like their point of view. Like, man, this guy's a terrible guy putting dangerous meat out there, whatever their point of view. I wanted to see it and kind of read it. And I couldn't find anything, man. So I think this is really weird. I think the other thing that's weird, like you mentioned, the Amish part, this is their religion and the way they believe. This is their culture. So it was never a problem before. And even the article mentions that for some of their bison meat and some of the other smaller stuff, they didn't care about that. They're like, yeah, you can keep selling that. That's fine. But the big three, the pork, the chicken, and the beef is the ones that they were concerned about and wanted to make sure that they were regulated to the FDA's compliance to be able to put this preservative on it and whatnot. So I don't know, man. I find it disheartening that the government might be doing stuff like this to our food supplies.
Well, yeah, I've seen documentaries about that. Especially like slaughterhouses, they wanted a specific way, and then the acids, like the way to process it, because they believe it's like the food could get contaminated easily, right, or something like that. I remember seeing a documentary about that in the past. Um, but it doesn't surprise me. It's they have a tendency to pick on, especially now with the the way stuff is handled by the FDA and all that. The rules are always changing now, and the problem is uh, like where people think organic is like the organic at the store is like it's a definition that was what it's not what you think. At one time it might have been, but now they made they changed the law what you could call organic, and you look at it and it has like chemicals and shit. So it's just like they're just trying to control that market, I guess. But yeah, if you read it, all that the way when you process it and like the slaughter and then the process and with all those like what did it say, lemon or citric acid? People think like lemon or lime or some orange shit. It's not. It's just a bunch of chemicals that they put on there because uh, the way they process it through the machines and all that is it's basically a preservative, but it's not even like an organic preservative. It's just some
I,
shit that they put on there.
to me, I think it's fine that he does it that way. He should just have to label it that this does not have the citric
But
acid
that
or whatever other things, and put some kind of label so that people that do buy it, like Noel mentioned, that they're dumb and they can't figure it
they
out. You
signed those
put
contracts. Yeah, he lets them
right,
know up front. Yeah.
yeah, that you put a big label saying that this is the way it is. Like when you buy shit that has peanuts and it tells you this shit might contain peanuts. It's like it lets you know. So if you can't read and you can't comprehend English, then I don't know, you got bigger problems going on than not
They're
reading.
like, you don't got
That
to
the
sign here, but make your
right,
mark old school. Just put an
right.
X. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I think where you mentioned it before, the left not talking about it, I think that says a lot. I think they don't want to bring attention to it. I think they don't want people to start questioning things because once you start questioning one thing, it leads to questioning other things. And without going too much into detail, there's definitely some kind of agenda going on. Without sounding like a conspiracy theorist, that definitely seems like there's some agenda going on where they're trying to control the quality of food in the country and make it so that it's not as healthy as it should be. There's a reason why many countries around the world ban a lot of U.S. products. They don't allow a lot of the products that are allowed in the U.S. out over there because they don't want to contaminate their population with a lot of the preservatives and a lot of the artificial ingredients that are included in a lot of things in the U.S. Um,
No,
so it,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that whole trend a couple years back of plant-based meat and all that bullshit. Like, uh, I'm like, well, this is interesting. And then you read about how it's made and all this. Like, it's just it's a lot of fucking garbage. Like, it's a lot of preservatives, and they
Well, not all
process
of
the
it, but yeah, there
a
are
big
some.
chunk of it. If you
Right.
read it, look into it, it's like it's not good. Like I get it if you're a vegan and shit, but if you read it, like it's a lot of filler, a lot of crap that's in it, and then like it's not necessary. They pass it off. If it's being healthy for you, but it just you have a burger. I mean, like if you have like regular ground beef, it doesn't have like all those fucking chemicals that they have in that plant-based fucking meat and shit, you know? And
I,
like it might be fattier the ground beef, but it's they pump a lot of shit, a lot of chemicals and shit into it.
I think it's like everything else. If you see a label that says fat free, it doesn't mean douse your salad in it and drown it in it and it's going to be healthy. It doesn't mean that it's healthy. So you need to be educated and read the stuff and understand what's on it. Just because there's a big label that says, oh, no sugar additives. Well, it might have a ton of other shit that's bad for you. So it doesn't mean that, oh, I'm diabetic, no sugar added. Hey, man, let me down this thing and it's all good to go. You got to be a smart
that's a good
consumer.
point, man. That's a good point. So the other day I went to Sam's Club, and I have an elderly friend that he's blind, so he needs somebody to take him to the store sometimes. So I'll take him to the store and help him shop and kind of point things out to him. And there was this citrus drink that they were giving samples out of. He tasted it. He's like, "Oh, this tastes good. Yeah, let me get one of these." And they're like, "Yeah, it doesn't have any sugar." He's like, "Oh, it doesn't have." He's diabetic. So he's like, it doesn't have sugar? Oh, yeah, let me load up a box. So I loaded him up a box and we're walking around or whatever. And I remembered something that the lady had said when we got the sample. She had said, like, oh, yeah, this gives me so much energy. I feel it like right away. And I started thinking, like, why would it give you energy? Like, what the hell is in this shit? So I actually took a good look at it and I'm like, oh, damn, it's got like taurine and fucking caffeine and all this other shit, like a monster drink. And I told my elderly friend Mike, I'm like, hey, are you allowed to drink like things with caffeine? He's like, no, no, no. Like, does it have caffeine? Like, he got scared. I'm like, yeah, because he had a stroke, he had a heart attack way back. He has like a Ford bypass or whatever it was, and so he can't have caffeine, like not even a little bit. So after he drank that sample, he's like, "Oh shit, this is not good." But I'm like,
Damn.
but he was fine. It was just like definitely good thing he didn't take that because He's like, if I had taken this home today, I would have drinking three or four one after another, not knowing it has this much caffeine. It's like 1.5 grams of a combination cocktail of caffeine and other shit. I'm like, bro, you would have died today if you had drinking three of these, because his
Right.
heart's already in, and he's diabetic. So it's crazy, dude. And going back to what we were talking about with the farmer, I think part of the reason they want to, make an example out of this guy is because they don't want him to become bigger. Once he has 4,000 members right now. If it grows to more, if it doubles, if it quadruples, and if little by little it becomes more, he's going to become a millionaire. He's going to become richer and richer and be able to expand his farms, and this will become a new thing where it's healthier eating. And I just don't think the government wants that. I think they want people dependent on their pharmaceuticals, that they obviously have lobbyists working to make laws to benefit them. And I think the times speak for themselves, man. Like the era we're in, it's all about control, and it seems like they're going after the little guy.
I mean, I do agree on some control. Don't get me wrong. If you're listening in government, it's cool, man. You could manage some things and help people with some things, but I think it's got to be smaller. I think government's reach has got to be smaller instead of this wide consuming thing. You got to let the free market speak for what they are. And I think you're right, Noel. I think that some people are willing to spend a lot of money on good food. And there are some people that they just want to pay $1 for a hamburger. So there's a wide spectrum. Allow the market to speak for what it wants and let people get what they want. If they want $1 burger, let them get $1 burger. If they want to buy that grass-fed beef that's $15 for that same hamburger, let them pay $15 for that same hamburger. I mean, you should let the market speak and the people get what they want.
It's like $22 a pound, dude. It's incredibly expensive.
And it's $1.25 for that hamburger now.
Right. Yeah, the dollar store isn't $1 anymore.
Yeah, but how much is medication when you get sick, So that's why it's like there's a trade-off. At some point, there's a trade-off. You're trading off right now the money you're saving. You're trading it off for like complications, pain and suffering, and high medical bills down the line. And it's like, I don't know, is that really what the goal is?
Right, but to each their own. If that's your prerogative, then hey, man, dele gas.
Oh, for sure. But it's like at least let them know, like, hey, this is gonna
Right.
fuck you up.
Right.
Not like, oh yeah, let's keep our eyes closed. Like, no, let you know this is gonna fuck you up if you go this cheap route, and then let them do what they want to do.
So
it's like back in the day when you had those dick enlargement pills, like the pop-up beds. You're like, is this shit for real? It's dirt cheap. I'm like, if it really worked, I think it'd be more expensive.
Yeah, man, shit. Never needed that. Thank God I have that
God
good genetics.
Damn, man. Shit, man. But no, man. Yeah, it's that's like Nanny said, and you said, being part of a consumer is you got to get educated. There's a lot of factors what you go into when you buy shit, and like the old saying goes, you get what you pay for. So I get it. There's a lot of economic factors depending on your economic situation on what you can purchase. But relatively, like we always talk, look at fast food. They have those cheap value meals, or the value meal, like the $1, $2. It's probably not the best thing for you to get that, but if you're in a tough spot, you get a nice little burger for like $1 or $2, and like a drink or some fries for like under $3 to $4. Hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do to eat that day, and I don't blame you for doing it. But health wise, Noel, what you bring up is probably not the best thing you could do, but you gotta do what you gotta do. And then there's people that just look at every, keep track of every little thing that they put in their body, and sometimes it's like overkill. I feel like, but I get it, man. They want to live long, and they got people to take care of possibly or whatever. But yeah, it's the best thing you can do is get educated and learn what you can learn when you make those decisions.
Like there's a reason why we put gasoline in our cars and not just like whatever alcohol or whatever shit will barely run it. There's a reason why we do that. We take care better of our cars than we do of ourselves. We get the maintenance on the car, we get the oil changes, whatever repairs it needs. Why? Because we need to get to work. But we don't take care of our bodies when we need it for everyday living. So I just don't understand it. But like Daniel said, everybody's got to make their own choice. I just want to do my part to at least inform people and spread the information that I get, and hope that somebody out there is listening and be like, you know what, let me make a change because, you can always do better.
I don't know, man. That double stack with a couple bucks is pretty good, man. And then
Yeah,
they
every now and
douse it in
again, it's
fucking
okay,
ketchup
but
and greasy. You ever
every now and
notice that these
again,
burgers are real greasy compared to everybody else?
you know, I guess, but I haven't gotten the double stack in a bit, but yeah, you do have a point. When I got the Baconator one time, like
Oh,
it was like
dude.
a years ago, that was like doused in grease. I was like, holy shit,
And they
dude.
put like that cheese sauce or some shit. Remember that? I haven't been
Hmm.
to Wendy's in forever, but it was. I'm thinking about it now. Wendy's was always the greasiest fucking burgers, no matter which one you would get.
I mean that's how burgers are though. You really can't get out of that unless
Nah,
you
man,
go
you
like
go, you get
super
a
dry.
burger from McDonald's. They're fucking dry as fuck. The Whoppers, Burger King, they're a little bit juicier, but they're not greasy.
I guess it depends on if they've been sitting out for a long time because McDonald's doesn't give a shit about that.
Yeah, that shit's
They'll give you an
processed to the
old,
bone. Yeah.
but Wendy's like they give you generally fresher. So maybe that's what it is. It didn't have the time for the juices to dry up.
Who knows? But yeah, I mean, for that being said, that's all the time we got for this week. I want to thank you for listening. Remember, you can follow Freeform Network on Facebook and Twitter at Freeform Network. Also, send your questions and suggestions to ffnquestions@gmail.com. Let us know there if you're on that plant-based food, or you guys go to Amish people, or you buy you buy whole cows, and there's cows that get slaughtered, like farms. You can buy a whole cow and they do the slaughtering there for you. So I'm thinking, do they do this whole process? Are they FDA approved? Let us know what you guys do with your protein, and how do you get it at ffnquestions@gmail.com. Don't forget to visit our webpage at freeformnetwork.podbean.com. There you see all our links to to a bunch of platforms. So to how you consume our podcast, and we're still on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever they're called now. We're on YouTube. We're on a bunch of platforms. So whatever way you consume it, hit like, subscribe buttons on there, and leave comments. That makes us happy. So for Freeform Radio, we got Daniel.
Yes, sir, man. I got some leftover Chinese food. I think I'm gonna go eat me some chicken chop suey, man.
Man, you think that's plant based?
Well, some of it does have some vegetables.
And Noel.
Hey, thank you all for listening. We appreciate you greatly.
And it's all good, Andy. We want to thank you for listening, and then hope everyone had a good Labor Day. We'll talk to you soon, man.
That was cool, Dad.